Shalom, all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, Bashem Rakak Wadash. My name is Shikabo from Plain Tables Camp, Philly. This is Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. So, the wicked covereth the face of the judges. All right. The wicked are the Edomites. All right, that's pursuing to what the blessing that Isaac gave Esau in Genesis 27th chapter and Malachi 1 and 4. That's how we know who the wicked are. It says he covereth the face of the judges, and the judges are the Israelites. All right. It tells you that that we shall judge angels. So shall we not judge the smallest matters? All right. So the judges, as it refers to in the scriptures, what nation are the judges? The judges of the earth are the Israelites under the Lord, Yahushua. The covereth, we got H3680, which means we got kasa, which means to hide, to conceal. So what the Edomites have done, mainly spearheaded by the Edomites, they have all the darker images that they put out and for public view and for public consumption that are popular. They've so-called whitewashed them to make them look more pale in complexion, lack of melanin. So that's how they hide. That's how they cover the faces of the Israelites, which is the judges. All right, by concealing. All right, changing the features. And this is a video I did in 2020. The heathen have painted the likeness of their images. All right, it's 3 years ago. I think it was 2020, right? Yeah, January 8th, 2020. So let this play.
History, and the British Museum and British government are opposed to the reuniting this greatest wonder of the ancient world so the world can see it in its original shape.
Well, obviously the museum says it's protecting it, but you not only expose allegations of whitewashing of the whole story around the Elgin marbles, but you say that the marbles themselves were whitewashed, literally.
Yes.
Just tell me about that.
Oh, that was a scandal that the British Museum did its best to hush up. But this crook, Duveen, after whom they honour with the presence of the marbles, he rather liked the idea that the marbles, originally brown and coloured, should be whiter than white.
So you can see this, okay? That's why I put the caption on. So you didn't mistake what he said. All right. He said that the British Museum is hiding dark images, dark sculptures, paintings, whatever's that they don't put out into the front. They hide it. So they lied. So this Englishman, he might be an Israelite, or he could be just a zealous Edomite. He's telling you that they're lying about how the people in the ancient world looked at ruled Europe. Now, I don't think he goes into exactly the particulars of which artifacts or paintings or sculptures they have, but if they're European, he would be admitting that the rulers of Europe in the Dark Ages and periods before that were dark. They didn't look like him. They were brown-skinned people that ruled the different European countries. Let's go back a little bit.
He rather liked the idea that the marbles, originally brown and coloured, should be whiter than white. So he's got workmen to scour them and did great damage to them.
They sanded it down, the bas-relief element of it.
Yes, and it was a disgrace. And the British Museum trustees of the time, this was in the late 1930s, hushed it up. And even as late as 1990, they told Chris Smith, who was leading an inquiry of the parliamentary the arts minister, that they had been kept impeccably. And that was a lie.
And you detail it point by point in the book. But
you
know the main argument that anyone out there uses. They don't use the arguments of the board of the British Museum saying we're an encyclopedic museum, we should have them. They say, if you return these sorts of things to these countries, they will be destroyed. Mitsotakis, the new premier in Greece, was just with Netanyahu, funnily enough, who was visiting here to rush back after the assassination in Baghdad airport. What happened if there was retaliation against Greece because it's getting closer to Israel? And
there might as well be a retaliation against London for its support, unthinking support of American policy, what part at indigenous.
But if we returned it, could it be endangered by climate change if we send things back?
No, it would be a most precious shield, a most precious cultural treasure for the indigenous people of Australia. That's why they want it back, and they're supported by their parliaments. But, of course, it's not coming back.
Now, I believe he's talking about something else, talking about things that the British stole, the Edomite British stole from other countries, artifacts, and that recently came back up. So let's go forward a little bit. So this is in my icon book here, the Power of the Power of Icons. It's the most expensive book I've ever bought. Bought this book like 2007, 2008, and just here. It says the icon is in very good, let me move this out the way, condition. Nearly all the original paintwork as well as the final highlights on the faces, clothing, and buildings have been preserved. A small dark triangle can be discerned at the bottom left border of the icon. All right. This is a survival from subsequent overpainting in green and red when the icon was cleaned, and the restored left this area untouched in order to pass information about icons' history. All right, and here's the icon. So they said they admit they cleaned it, and this is the original paintwork. Now going to Ezekiel 36:5, about appointing the land of Israel to the heathen. They took the land. Presenius,
it was Septimius Severus and Presenius Niger. It says, an error when alt-right have co-opted images of classical white marble statues. UI professor receives death threats over an article on classical art. Now, this may be true or not. All right. What he's pretty much going to say is that they used to be brown, but then because of weathering, they lost their color. That could be true or not true. What we know, according to the features that we're seeing, yeah, we believe these to be Israelites. Septimius Severus, and I believe this is Presenius Niger, or Presenius Niger, excuse me. Shalakia, Presenius Niger.
It's actually pronounced Niger. Nigar. Presenius Niger.
All right. Presenius Niger. All right. In an era when alt-right group have co-op images of classical white marble statues, the University of Iowa, UI, classical professor published articles about ancient art undermining those achromatic images, which has led to death threats and
virulent
online commentary. The face of classical departments in universities across the country is often depicted by a pearl-white statue, more times than not a dude from the ancient Roman and Greek eras. Yeah, right. But the evolution of ultraviolet technology now suggests the reason these famous sculptures stand so monochromatic, meaning one color, I believe that's what you're trying to say. Is actually due to natural weathering that has worn away the original paint. And you've seen that British guy. With this in mind, Sarah E. Bond, an assistant professor of the classics of the University of Iowa, all right, about the impact of depicting classical statuary as bright white. Yeah, because it has a psychological effect on your psyche and your next what you believe in. You know, you gotta.
Yeah, no person looks like this. Looks like marble white. All right, but it's lighter than brown. So you look at these images. Also, these are so-called white men. I mean, well, we know better. We can clearly see, you know, the woolly hair, the woolly beard. All right. We can see. So we know that these two men were not of this near complexion as depicted in marble. But according to what this professor is saying in Iowa, he's saying, well, these marble images actually used to be painted the color of the actual men. Septimius Severus and Persinius Niger. So, hey. But whether they were, you know, marble, the statues were originally marble or not, we know and we believe that these two men were Israelites. All right, at the stock of Jacob. Certain black conscious, so-called black conscious people that believe all Europeans were originally that they're Caucasians, and people from the South and Africa all melanated and dark, and that's the separation. All right, which it's a lie. The original people from Europe are colored. All right, this is these are actual Greeks before Alexander and the different nomadic Edomites got into, the Greek Empire and Roman Empire. All right, you had the original inhabitants of that land because Esau, Edom migrated throughout Europe, and intermarried and set up shop. All right, it says Greek 460 to 450 BC. All right, these are actual, may not be Israelites, but these are supposed to be depicting ancient Greek warrior, actual Helen. All right. And again, you see, the white marble, versions of all those when you go to these museums. But these right here, it's pretty much common knowledge that these Septimius Severus and Persinius Niger are so-called black people. All right, the woolly hair, the beard. All right. And there's one more scripture I wanted to get. First Maccabees 3:48, and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint a likeness of their images. All right, that's the thief. All right, that's the thief. Now, I wanted that scripture in Job. Earth is given to the hand of the wicked. First Maccabees law wherein the heathen. Yeah, so either, Esau was physically painting, images in there of himself and other gods, or he was changing doctrine around, changing the words around, or adding to the scriptures, or taking away. All right. So the author of the Maccabees, he found out that they were whatever method they used to change those images or the words, that's what was used. All right. So they found a scroll, all right, of the law, and he recorded this. He said, and laid open the book of the law, First Maccabees 3:48, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. All right. So it was either their faces, their gods, or they were changing the doctrine around. All right. It's not really specific, but it says images. All right. So we got let's go back to the first part, and I'll leave this link to this in the description box.
Cells were whitewashed, literally.
Yes.
Just tell me about that.
Oh, that was a scandal that the British Museum did its best to hush up. But this crook, Reuben, after whom they honour with the presence of the marbles, he rather liked the idea that the marbles, originally brown and coloured, should be whiter than white. So he's got workmen to scour them and did great damage to them.
They sanded it down, the bas relief element of it.
Yes, and it and coloured should be white with the presence of the marbles. He rather liked the idea that the marbles, originally brown and coloured, should be whiter than white. So he's got workmen to scour them and did great damage to them.
They sanded it down, the bas relief element of it.
Yes, and it was a disgrace, and the British Museum trustees of the time, this was in the late 1930s, hushed it up, and even as late as 1990, they told Chris Smith, who was leading an inquiry of the parliamentary inquiry, the arts minister, that they had been kept impeccably. And that was a lie.
And you.
Right. So, Esau is a liar and the devil. So we believe that the rulers of Europe during the Dark Ages and before the Dark Ages, all right, you had a certain, you had a beginning stage, and then it led, into a full, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the lawgiver from between his feet. That prophecy came into effect during the Dark Ages, all right, and before the Dark Ages, all right. So I'll leave the link of this whole video in the description box. Hope you're edified. Shalom.